Welcome to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I'm Megan DeVito, and I'm the life coach for stressed out and anxious women who want more out of life. I'm here to help you create a life you love to live where anxiety isn't holding you back. Get ready for a lighthearted approach to managing anxiety through actionable steps, a lot of truth talk, and inspiration to take action so you walk away feeling confident, calm, and ready to live. Let's get to it. Welcome to episode 41 of the More Than Anxiety podcast. I am so excited to make this episode today because it is my first ever podcast interview. And my hope is to bring you monthly interviews with colleagues and clients and friends and people with incredible stories and knowledge to share with you about all kinds of different topics, because this is called the More Than Anxiety podcast because I actually want to talk about more than just anxiety. That's just what I tend to talk about since I work with people who are anxious. But this week, I am interviewing an incredible woman who has helped my kids and me stay upright and moving for over a year now. She is kind and compassionate and has a soul that is so peaceful that I know that you are absolutely going to love hearing from her. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Jodi Coyle. Enjoy. I want to welcome everybody to the More Than Anxiety podcast. I am so excited because, as I said in the introduction, this is my very first ever podcast interview. And today you get to meet my friend, Jodi Coyle. Jodi is an esthetician. She is a yoga teacher, and she is also a coach. And she's got so many good things to tell you, words of wisdom, and so much insight. So we're going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to go ahead and say, Jodi,
hi.
I'm so excited that you could join me. And
thanks for having me.
Why don't you take a minute? Yeah, you're so welcome. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and just tell people what you do?
All right. Well, I am Jodi Coyle, a Columbia City native, and I am a massage therapist. I've been doing massage therapy for 31 years, and it has been one of the loves of my life, most certainly. Also practicing aesthetics and natural skincare for those of us who like to partake in feeling wonderful on the outside as well. And then I've been doing some coaching with some of my massage therapy clients and aesthetics clients. I have a great love for yoga. I've been teaching yoga since 2011, and I incorporate that into every massage that one would get from me. So those are my things that I'm doing.
So good. And I can attest to yes, she does incorporate yoga into her massages, and they're magic. And if you live close to me, then you're lucky because you can go visit her. But if you don't, we'll talk about that later. So I just want to keep this real casual, very conversational, and learn more about what you do and your experiences. And I know you said you've been doing yoga for quite a while, and it's such a passion. So what was your experience, maybe your past experience, or what brought you to a place where you fell in love with yoga, or you fell in love with, or even started coaching? So just what got you to where you were? What was your experience in the past?
Well, I really feel like it kind of started with massage therapy. I was a hairdresser at the time. And in 1992, I was introduced to a massage therapist. I was having some pain in my body. I really wasn't practicing good body mechanics as a 23-year-old who, I was a hairdresser and I just did what I had to do in that position. And so a client of mine referred me to a massage therapist in Fort Wayne, and I made an appointment. And I'll have to tell you, I kind of floated out of the room when she was finished. And I said to myself, I want to know how to do this. I want to know how to help people feel this free from their pain, from their anxiety, from any stressors that are appearing in their life. I feel like it just kind of made everything sit by the wayside, and I was able to navigate differently from that point forward. So massage therapy, it was something that I committed myself to once a month. I was her appointment the first Monday of every month for several years. Me and Garfield were not always crazy about Mondays. So I thought Monday's the perfect day. And as a hairdresser, I had Mondays off, but I dedicated one day a month, 1 hour a month to myself. I wasn't doing that for anybody else. I was doing that to help me feel better in my body. And so from that came aesthetics. A couple years later, I became a licensed esthetician. And in aesthetics, we also talk a lot about what's going on in the body, because what comes out in the skin is usually what's going on in the body and what's going in the body. So that sparked a new love for nutrition and balancing the foods that I eat. And aesthetics, looks at movement even, how are we moving our faces to support a joyful being? And after that, I was pregnant with my second son. So I had him in 99. So I was kind of just looking into ways where I could make my body feel better, because it was a big baby and I started having a lot of pain in my body. And I'm like, how do I alleviate this? And so I was turned on to a yoga class on TV, of all places, and practiced yoga with on Inhale Channel with Steve Ross. And it changed my life, because I was like, wait a minute, I can do those things. Like, I think I was intimidated before I ever tried it, thinking, well, I'm not going to be able to make that shape and hold that pose and breathe that breath. It was very intimidating to me. But once I started doing it, I noticed how I began to be patient with myself and didn't force myself into that. And over the years, just did lots of different kinds of yoga. But the yoga to me has evolved from one stage to another. And I feel like that's an important thing to take a look at, is that yoga at first, it's kind of like on the pink cloud a little bit. You're like, ooh, this is fun and this is good workout. I really like this. But it isn't always easy. So we tend to force ourselves into things, to put into postures, into poses. And so we can kind of keep ourselves from moving into things by forcing. So I started noticing how I was forcing myself. Well, I can hold this downward facing dog as long as I want, and it very quickly reminded me that I can't force anything. Especially not my body. And so I started to become a little bit softer on my body, had another child, had sciatica issues from that pregnancy. And so I learned a little bit different type of yoga at that point, the kind of yoga that I teach mostly in my yoga teaching practice, and that's yin yoga. And this is a still form of yoga. This is not moving up and down and seeing how many, chaturangas you can do and how much you can sweat and what a good workout you can get, although that is fantastic and should still be done. I learned how to get still. And boy, was that hard. As a go-go girl and a mom of 3, I knew that I needed to slow down a little bit. So I started incorporating that practice of yin, where we're always on the floor. We're always being supported by the floor, bolsters, blankets. And we stay in a pose, a yoga pose, for at least 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
I know some people sometimes that have never experienced that look at me like I have 5 heads. They're like, you're going to make me do what? And I assure them that as that 5 minutes moves along, things start to shift. Your body starts to release, and you begin to allow comfort in your body, even in an intense like situation.
That's so funny you said that, because I did bar this morning and it was like, now hold. And I'm like, my legs were like, oh. So that's all I could picture, is just laying on the floor shaking.
Sure. And that's the wonderful aspect of yin yoga, is that it teaches us that even when we're off our mat from doing yin and we're in bar class, or we're on the treadmill, or we're doing the other forms of movement, that we aren't forcing ourselves. When our body starts to gyrate like that, it's like saying, oh, heck no, we need to back off.
Oh my gosh.
And so it teaches us to start backing off. Even bar teaches us to back off a little bit and know that we don't have to be doing 110%, that if we can hang out around 90% even, that's one thing that has really stood out for me in all these years of yoga, is that I don't have to be perfect at it. And I don't have to have an expectation of myself. It's going to be different every day when I get on my mat. And I can guarantee you it is for me. Every morning when I go to my mat, I need something different. And so that brings me to a subject that is so near and dear to my heart right now. And that is the body's ability to tell us exactly what we need.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I know that I have to get quiet enough to hear it, because my body may scream and yell a little bit if I strain a hamstring or twist my ankle. But on a daily basis, it's not always going to converse like that. Mm-hmm. And so I really have to get quiet to be able to hear what's going on in my body. And I think it's interesting how even science now is really developing this mass research of this mind-body connection.
Mm-hmm. It's huge. And it's something that I think it just comes up all the time with my coaching and possibly with yours too. And I definitely want to hear about that idea that, specifically with me coaching people who are very anxious or very stressed out, and them saying, I think this is happening. And I think this. I'm like, but that's your brain. And it's just thinking, and it thinks all the time. And it doesn't necessarily say anything that's worth listening to. But if we drop into that feeling in your body, we're like, where do you feel it? And what, like, just listen to it. And they're like, it's not saying anything. This is what I hear. And I'm like, yes, but hold on a minute. And when we can drop into that place. So how would you, I did not even. So in all fairness, I told Jodi what I was going to ask her so she could be prepared on this interview. And I'm about to ask her something that I didn't even put on the list, because you just made me, how would you explain that to somebody? How do you listen to that voice inside of you, or that, how do you listen to your body? How do you explain that?
I feel like for me to be able to listen to my body, I had to quiet my mind a little bit, because you're right. They are just thoughts. And the mind is totally separate of the thoughts. So if we are continuing this process of thoughts, this is what I'm thinking, this is what I think, this is how, we tend to get really caught up in a story that plays over and over and over. And if we allow ourselves to sit quietly, it's not that the thoughts are going to completely go away, and we really don't need them to go away for us to be mindful. But what we do need to do is give ourselves time to process those thoughts. And that's difficult in our times. We are often on go-go mode, and we are multitasking, which, tends to cause a lot of the stress that we're putting ourselves through. There are things that are out of our control, obviously, but the things that we are in control of is how I decide to digest these thoughts. And if the body isn't properly digesting foods, it's probably not going to digest thoughts. So that's my quickest way in, is to
little
explain.
Gold nugget for the day. Yeah.
And it's so true. So if the body is abrupted suddenly from a thought, then it's going to start these mechanisms to try to digest that. In fact, what we're finding, and what many have known for millennia, ergo yogic text, if you're ever interested in what the true old school says about yoga, is that our body is responding before our mind.
Yes.
And that one hit me so beautifully. Like, wait a minute. So my body knows first what's best for me. And then that allowed me to be able to look at these thoughts and go, well, that's just a thought. And that's just the thought trying to figure out what the body is already doing. Yes. And so it reminded me how important it was for me to make sure that I'm hearing what's going on in my body. And if this is really loud, I can't hear it. So I started to take a look at that digestion aspect. And this is where nutrition comes in, because, it is so important. There are all these things that these components that if brought together will bring a sense of well-being to us.
Yeah.
And so if we are able to, wake up in the morning and go, oh, you know what? My feet really hurt today. I wonder why that is. And then we can go into, well, what was my movement? What did I consume during the day? Not just foods, but what things did I consume in terms of relationships and the things that are on the outside of me? How am I looking at those things? And am I digesting what's taking place there as well? So, I look at coaching as an opportunity for someone to say, you know what, here's what's going on in me. Now, what do you think? And what do you think would help alleviate that? And within yoga, within massage therapy, within skincare, within, everything we do, those are our tools, and we can create this tool bag of things that will make a difference every time. And
Absolutely.
So in terms of yoga and how it changed things for me, I will say the first, at least 5-ish years of doing yoga, I thought it was so much about the movement. The asana practice is important. It is something that I will do for the rest of my life. Yeah. But it became more important than anything at first. And what it did was it helped me learn how to breathe, because I wasn't breathing properly. I don't remember a class in school.
So big.
Yeah. Never taught me how to breathe.
I've told this story so many times that when I went to therapy for like a really short amount of time in college. And I remember her telling me, now put a hand on your chest and a hand on your stomach and try to breathe to your stomach. And I was like, so anxious that it would go to maybe here. And I was like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Nobody can do that. Nobody can actually breathe like that. And I'm like, for years. And now I'm like, no, like down, you got to breathe down.
Yes.
But it is crazy. Like you would think that breathing, it shouldn't be a problem since it's automatic. It's like trying to regulate your heartbeat, right? But it is such a problem.
Yes. And people come to me and say, well, I don't know if I can do yoga. And I say, can you breathe? And they laugh at me usually or be like, oh, really? And I'm like, seriously, you are breathing, you can do yoga. Yeah. And yoga will help remind you how important that breath is. It is our life force. Without my breath, I would be dead.
Yes.
And until
For sure, right?
Yes. I mean, that seems so simplistic, but a lot of people are walking this earth holding their breath and generally not even exhaling, but a fraction of what they're inhaling. And that alone creates stress in the body. It puts you into fight or flight. And so if you learn to move the breath in a more constructive way, and if I had one thing that I would love everyone to remember about breath is that if you're stressed, if you're in angst, just let your exhale be longer. Even a couple seconds longer will help put your body back into the parasympathetic, or that rest and digest. And digest. It will put you into that state of body. And it's like, within seconds, it may take minutes, and it's okay. Try not to put a time frame in like, by golly, I'm going to do these longer exhales for at least 2 minutes. It doesn't have to be a consensus of how long is this going to take? And we start to drop those ideas of this has to take place now. And if I'm practicing that on my mat, then I go out into the world and I don't get in such a hurry. I'm not rushed to do anything. And everything becomes a joy because I'm not rushed or feeling frantic about it anymore. And, it's okay to run late. I think that I used to be very hard on myself if I ran late. And when you've got 3 children and you're trying to get them ready to go, and you got to get diaper bags packed, and you got to make sure you have snacks and water and juice boxes and all the things. And, you're going to be late most of the time. essentially, I gave myself a lot more stress than I needed to because I didn't understand that others would understand. So I put a lot of pressure on myself as a human being to be perfect, to be doing everything on time. And you know what? If it's in my time, if I'm 5 or 10 or a half an hour late, I made it, we made it, all is well. And that attitude has grown for me through the practice of yoga. It has taught me that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to be in pain sometimes, it's okay.
And it's so funny how many people that just, with that thought of, I have to be perfect. I can't be late. I can't do, I can't mess up. What will people think? And I always, my thought is always, well, could you just tell me what perfect is? Because we all have such a different definition of what is perfect, that perfect is all, again, it's just the thought. And the idea of saying, oh, wait a minute, their perfect may not be the same as my perfect. So whose perfect am I shooting for anyway? And that idea that, no, you know what? I'd rather have my kids show up and not be cranky because I was stressed out and be 10 minutes late than show up on time and have them freaking out the whole time.
Right. Yeah. Giving that understanding to ourselves is so poignant and part of the process of living. So in terms of my practice here, I have an office in my home and my living room is used to teach yoga. And you won't see me advertise for this, aside from talking with a dear friend about my practice and sharing it with people who want to know how to feel better. I'm delighted to be part of this interview today.
Oh, I'm so happy.
It allows me, to share the things that I am most passionate about in this world. And so giving yourself self-care is one of the best ways to alleviate stress in your body. And stress is the number one killer in our country. And so if we can build tools and learn tools to alleviate that and just kind of let that be, rather than trying to force it out or deny it, and really take time just for me. I don't feel selfish about that anymore. I haven't for quite some time, and I used to.
Good.
And it seems silly to think that I shouldn't care for myself. But sometimes we get caught up in caring for everyone else. And if I could tell my young self something today, it would be to make sure to take time for you. Don't ever feel bad for that. Because the better that I'm caring for me, the better that I'm going to care for everyone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, the idea that, well, I have to put everyone, we're so taught that, aren't we? It's such a cultural thing. And it's not a bad, with the best of intentions, it's not a bad thing to care about other people. Of course not. No. But the idea that we have to, put yourself last, always, always give. And yes. And you can't give when you don't have anything left. You can't give your time. You can't give your energy. You can't give your money. You can't give your anything when you're empty. And just, this idea that you have to fill your own cup first. You have to take care of yourself or everybody suffers. You can't show up as your best self if you don't.
Indeed. And the way that I fill up my cup is as quickly as possible after I wake up in the morning. I try not to wait till noon or 5 o'clock in the afternoon to do this gentle practice for myself. But I find my way into my mat, into my yoga room. I get on my mat, I sip my warm lemon water, and I breathe. I do several different breath work practices. I have other sacred practices that are part of that. And then I move my body as well in multiple ways. I practice Qigong. I practice yoga. I practice release techniques with structural alignment.
What is Qigong? I'm going to stop you for a second. What's Qigong?
Oh, Qigong is traditionally a Japanese practice where you are moving the energy of your body around simultaneously with itself. And so we're gathering this energy. So we have an energy field around us, right? We've all, dabbled in that idea. And so this energy around me is responding to my body's movement. And so if I move my body on purpose to gather that energy, to embrace that energy and bring that energy in, maybe bring it up, down, around, I am allowing for that energy field to be strong and emit a higher frequency. So we've heard lots of things about frequency, right? We are a specific frequency, all of us. The pillows that I have my phone set on carry their own frequency. Everything does. Everything is energy. And Qi means energy. So we're moving the Qi, the Qi, it's called many different things in all the different practices around the world, of course. All these different words for energy. In yoga, it's called prana. So in Qigong, I'm moving prana. And so what I find though is it's so giggly and elating practice. It makes me laugh every time.
I love it.
I'm woo, it's just it is fun to do. And and so I do that, as part of my movement practice. I also do structural alignment, which is the subtle movement of the body, the idea that we can really tap into specific muscles at a time. And if we're doing that most of the time, maybe not all the time, we are able to notice where our body is posturally. And so to alleviate the stress in my body, I pay attention to my posture. So structural alignment or somatics is another practice that I do on a daily basis. And one could look at that and go, well, wow, that probably takes a long time, but not really. How long does it take to go get a Starbucks? How long does it take to go to the gym? And still go to the gym, have fun, go to the gym. I'm on my mat. I'm in a seated posture, at least a half an hour, breathing and doing seated practices. And then I do a movement practice for a half an hour-ish. If I have longer, I'll do an hour. But what I also do is I weave it in through the day. So something that I am really passionate about as well is teaching in a setting of the corporate setting. I teach corporate yoga at a couple of businesses. It's fantastic. And it allows them to say, okay, here's what I have available. I have my office, my desk, my chair, the door, so on, right? And I teach people to utilize the space around you during the day to break the habits of your body. If you have to sit in front of a computer all day long, you can take little stress breaks and give yourself time once an hour, once every other hour to just stand up, go to the doorway. I'll teach doorway stretches, different structural alignment movements, things you can do even in your desk while you're on the phone and typing. We want to multitask. Why not get into a yoga posture? I know that sounds a little silly, but there are things you can do in your chair. Chair yoga is such an amazing practice.
I just have this visual, this visual of a guy in a suit and tie and downward dog in his office, on the phone.
Yes. If you have floor space available, I teach extra things besides what can be done in your chair or in the doorway. I keep saying doorway because it's a really great place to open your body. Everything we're doing in life is forward motion. You're not reaching behind you to type, to get your water, to do anything. And so the front of the body is constantly being enclosed and concaving in. And so you go to the doorway, you can open things up. And so I love teaching that aspect of yoga. I don't teach group classes unless it's an organized class like that, where I'm invited either into somebody's home. I've done that in people's homes.
Oh, that's fun.
One of my clients has a nice, good sized basement. I've gone in and taught her and her sister and friends yoga. And, I want it to be available to you. I want your yoga to be available to you. And if getting on the mat for, an hour or so in the morning is not doable, there are things you can do to weave throughout your day that will break the habit of the body and create new, loving, comforting habits in your body.
Yes. Yes. And this is so good. I was just listening to, as I was driving my daughter to physical therapy this morning, actually, I was listening to an audio on YouTube, and it was Joe Dispenza talking about the habits of the body and how your body says, oh, it's 8 a.m. I'm normally stressed out right now because I'm trying to get to work or whatever. And so it's automatically responding. And then your brain everything is such a habit loop. And when we can break the habits of like the body remembering, oh, this is what I do at this time. I always think about getting off the school bus at, I can remember being little and getting off the school bus at like 3:00 or 3:30 and being like, snack time. And still I'm 37 and I'm like, must be 3:30 because I know I need a snack. And it is just like, it's programmed in. And until we're so intentional about saying, no, we're not going to do this, and I'm going to make my body learn this new habit. It's not even your brain. You're not thinking it's snack time. It's your body saying, oh, this is what we do.
Yes.
And it's all in there. And it's in these different, like, I guess I would call them hot spots. I don't know. There might be a word for that, but it's stored. It's in your muscles. It's in your nerves. It's in all the places. That's how you can have a memory in like a weird spot. Like every time I do this, it makes my shoulder hurt or something. Yeah,
absolutely. And I'd like to iterate on that a bit. And the reason that occurs is that our body is comprised of many different units. We have blood, lymph, we have muscles, we have tendons, ligaments, we have fascia. And fascia is what's connecting all of it.
Okay.
And so fascia is lying in there in my hand, holding this muscle to this muscle, helping structurize my hand in its shape. And fascia is the component in my body that is holding on to everything I've ever experienced, every word, every movement. And when we create a habit in our body, maybe that's doing 25 jumping jacks every day for, a year, we create this shape in our fascia. And so if we look at it on a different scale on, say, a stressor, say you're in a life today where there's a lot of stress in the home, there's tragedy, things like that, your body is responding to that as well. So if that takes place over and over and over again, your body structures itself, it shapes itself into that shape. So when you were saying, every time I think of this, it makes me feel it here. And that's because this was the coping mechanism for that said trauma. And I don't like to use the word trauma lightly, but trauma is a real thing. And it has levels. And so if a person is in a situation where I'll bring up an example, a client who was being physically abused by her spouse. She began to shape in a specific way every time he walked in the house because she had experienced enough times that she knew how to read his body language at this point, because he was also shaping himself in anger, trauma, whatever was happening in him. And so she was able to read that quickly enough that she began to hold this shape. Her shape was that of protection. And protection will do several things to us in our body. It will definitely make us fold in.
Right.
Because we're protecting the heart, we're protecting ourselves. And so then the body creates coping mechanisms, what it thinks of as coping, and takes shape. So until we can recognize the stressors in our life and be able to find how they're shaping us, we will continue with that pattern.
Okay.
So creating new patterns in the body with structural alignment, with very subtle movement. Yoga is subtle movement.
Yes.
Yoga is somatics as well.
For sure. Yes.
And so we can create a new pattern in the body so that even when that said spouse walks in the door, we have a different means of coping. And for her situation, she had to leave the situation. She began to have physical ailments in her young body, very young, 26 years old. And, had to sit with herself and say, okay, what do I do now? Do I continue to subject myself? I've tried to talk about it. I've tried counseling with he and myself and so on. And sometimes we get to the point where leaving is the only answer.
Yeah.
And so after she left, she came to me, and I had been working on her body during the stressor. And then I started working with her afterwards, helping her release trauma from her body, teaching her movement that supports her healing. And we're about a year out now, I would say, maybe 10 months. She walks differently. She's dropped 20 pounds.
Wow.
Because one of the things about protection is weight gain. It causes weight gain because it increases your cortisol levels. And good luck trying to lose weight when cortisol is high. It's near impossible.
Yeah, cortisol is all of the problems sometimes.
It is the stress hormone. Yeah,
it
is what your body secretes when you're under stress. And that can be, somebody pulling out in front of you on 30, or it could be, a family member or your own mind compilation that you're believing. And getting to the bottom of it requires us a great deal of courage. And I continually commend her for her courage.
For sure.
Taking the opportunity to say, hey, I've had enough.
Yeah.
And so I feel like yoga really did that for me as well. When I got into yoga, it was around the time that my daughter was born. And there was a lot going on in my life. And when I got introduced to yoga, it was life-changing because it helped me be aware of how these situations were affecting me. And, I would love to say that, everything all worked out and it all fixed the situation, but I had to fix what was happening in me. And that required not being with him. And so we have to love ourselves so much and so deeply that there's no question how others could be loving us. And I pray for every human on this planet that they are willing to become aware of what's going on in their life and in their body so that they can remedy it and release the need to control what other people are doing and what other people, because, I could have moved on with that relationship and allowed things to be happening around me, but I couldn't. I just couldn't.
Right. And we can't control anyone else. We can only control ourselves.
Absolutely.
And for you unfortunately, even though we'd like to fix everyone, right? I think for people, especially people who are fixers, and sometimes I feel like I'm a fixer, that can be very stressful because I can't fix it. can certainly help it. So yeah, and you are doing fantastic work and so helpful on so many different levels. So for anyone who is looking, if you live in the like Fort Wayne, Columbia City area, this is accessible, right? Warsaw, wherever. This is accessible to you. Like, and we can talk about like where they can find you if they're local. But what about for people who are listening to this podcast in, say, California or New York or Minnesota? What do they look for when they're looking for someone to help them with this? Like are there specific credentials, or is there something that like I really want to find somebody that understands somatic practices or that understands the value of nutrition with yoga, as opposed to just, like you said, doing however many downward dogs a day that would get them through the yoga class. Yeah.
Indeed. I think that the number one component is to really have a conversation with them about what it is they have to offer. Don't assume that a licensed massage therapist is going to be in somatics. Really ask questions. And a lot of the clinics around the United States, and the one that I work at as well, we have a bio of each of our therapists, pardon me, that tells what their practice consists of. And so if you can't access that, and if it's a private massage therapist, I have to say most of my clients over the years have been referrals. So if you have someone who's happy with their therapist, have them refer you to the therapist and try them out.
Yes.
But
this
if you
is
are
my
looking
direct
for
referral, if you're local.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And a lot of times, people will have a wonderful bio that lists, their experience, their licensure, and what they are using in their practice.
Okay.
So be mindful that a licensed massage therapist is always a good idea, because we've been taught protocol for how to be integrated with our clients. And how to be more honest with our credentials, because, sometimes we'd be like, well, I've done this before, but I haven't really learned it. Maybe they shouldn't be teaching it, but at least they can show you what they've learned. So it can be a benefit. So see what they're passionate about, and that will guide you in the right direction, I feel.
Yeah. So good. So good. So if someone wants to find you and they are local, do you have a way that you would because I know that you don't advertise and you don't, it's pretty word of mouth, but is that available to people?
Absolutely. I recently found out, I'd say a couple years ago, that you can actually Google me and it has my phone number.
Oh, you're on the Google.
Like, oh, that's interesting. I've never paid Google to do that.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to pay, they just do it.
And I'm on a hiatus from social media currently.
Good
but
for you.
I do keep Messenger open on Facebook. That's really the only social media that I am on, and I am private. So if you're a friend of Megan's, you can see me.
You can message me and I'll message.
Absolutely. I'm not sure how long my hiatus will be. I just felt the need to be more in the present moment, and it helps me to not go there as much. So I'm happy to give my phone number. I trust this beautiful woman here, and I know that people that are watching this today are seeking to feel better.
Yes.
And so I'm happy to, at whatever point, give my phone number. I am located in Columbia City, just on the outskirts of Columbia City. And I have an office in my home, and I prefer to have clients at my office, because then I can take as much time as I want. I work in a clinic setting just 1 to 2 days a week, but I only have 15 minutes in between clients. And so to me, that's really not enough time to teach you that stretch that you might, that might benefit your body, or to talk about a somatic movement, or to let you talk. So I gauge my time here in my office always with extra time afterwards so that my client doesn't feel rushed and I don't feel rushed. Mm-hmm. So you're more than welcome to visit me here. Otherwise, I do clinic work at Massage Works in Fort Wayne. I'm just there on Tuesdays and every other Friday. Mm-hmm. And so it might take a while to get in with me. Yeah. I've been there, I think January. It was in January that I went back to a clinical setting. I missed working with people, sort of, like other clinicians, other massage therapists. So it's just been a blast. But I am booked out about a month in advance. So feel free to contact me through Messenger. I am Jodi Lynn on Facebook, but again, I'm more than happy to give my cell phone number, and you're welcome to text or call me and connect. It would be great.
Wonderful. Thank you. This was so good and great, like incredible information. So much of I just love this idea of people coming together and really helping everyone understand that this is only part, we have to work it through everything. We have to work through your body, and to just really understand that we're so much more than the things that we think, and that there's so much hope out there and so many people, so many helpers. Right. And thank you.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, this has been wonderful. So thank you so, so much. What a gift.
You as well, love. Thank you.
All right. Well, you are so welcome.
I really hope you enjoyed meeting Jodi and learning more about yoga and massage therapy and all the different ways that you can take care of yourself. She is so wise, and she has this amazing calming energy that makes her absolutely perfect for her job. And I feel so lucky to have her live close by. So if you live in the Fort Wayne area and you want to connect with Jodi to learn more about how she can help you through yoga or massage, or to learn how she uses Young Living essential oils in her massage and her skincare and in her yoga practices, send me a message on Facebook and I will be sure to introduce the two of you. And if you're not from this area and you'd like to get in touch with her to hear more, that's great too. So you can do the same thing. Just message me on Facebook, say, hey, I really want to talk to Jodi, and I'll hook you up. So thanks for listening to this week's episode. And as always, if you are ready to talk more about how you can start taking better care of yourself by changing your habits and your mindset, then schedule your free coaching consultation with me using the link in the show notes, or go to megandevito.com/work with me. If I don't talk to you sooner, I will be back next week. Take care. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the More Than Anxiety podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review so others can easily find this resource as well. And of course, when you're ready to explore coaching with me, jump to the show notes, click the link, and schedule time for us to talk. See you soon.